Well, guys, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. Welcome and a big namaste from India. I'm very happy to be back with you. And today's topic is constructive communication, the soul of leadership. You see, there are four words: constructive, communication, soul, and leadership. Communication, we all know, is receiving and sending information. Leadership, like General Powell of US Army says, leadership is all about people. It's got nothing to do with strategies or plans. It's about motivating, inspiring people to do things which they believe they cannot do. And since leadership is about people, obviously communication is the tool for them to connect with people. And since that's the only way they can connect, it becomes the soul. Now, from where does this word constructive come in? And you keep reading about this thing, every second day: non-violent communication, constructive communication, authentic communication, all mean the same. But the thing is, today we are going to talk about what is this constructive communication and how does it help leaders to be more effective. Well, guys, my name is Sandeep Gupta. I'm a consciousness and a culture coach. I work in the space of organization development and people development, and I help businesses and leaders in resolving people issues and creating happy, high performance workplaces, you can say culture. And today I'm very happy because I have my friend Nina John with me. Now, Nina is a communication expert. She is a much acclaimed, rewarded, and awarded professional speaker. She's an institution in herself. So rather than I going on and on about her, I'll pass on the mic to Nina with a request. Nina, why don't you tell people in brief about yourself and just kickstart the discussion for the day? So over to you, Nina.
Thank you so much, Sandeep. Such an honor and privilege to be here with you. It is something that we talk about all the time. What is communication? I'm a communications catalyst in the sense I help people leverage their communication skills because I feel right from the rookie entering into the workforce to the CEA motivating that entire workforce, whether it consists of 5 people or 20,000 or 30,000 people, communication is key. And by communication, most people just tend to think it's like, oh, you need to speak well, you need to have a good accent. This is what talking is all about. But it's so much more than that. And as someone who's been in this field, I've been in Toastmasters, which is where a place where I really honed my communication skills. I've been a corporate facilitator for all kinds of behavioral skills, and I always found communication is key. Without communication, we simply don't have a connection. And that's true of whether it's on a family level, a personal level, or a corporate level, or even a country level. I mean, look at the way we're fighting wars. Why are we doing that? Simply because of violence in communication. I think that's the main thing. So back to you, Sandeep.
Thank you. And while you were saying, it was resonating so much, so I'll just take it forward. Constructive communication for me is the style of communicating, which prevents conflict, resolves conflict. It prevents miscommunication. It brings people together. It makes
Exactly.
them understand each other. Now, when we talk of miscommunication, we talk of conflicts, resolution, like Nina said, communication is much more than talking and speaking, etc., etc. From where does this conflict, from where does this miscommunication come from? It comes from your inside. And your inside, well, you might say, okay, my inside is clear. Yes, your inside is clear. No one is doubting you. Your intents were good. But your state of mind at that particular point where you are communicating, so you're very agitated. So obviously, what is going to reflect in your communication is agitation. Let me ask you a simple question, guys. You have 100 rupees in your pocket. Can you give me 101? You cannot. You'll only give what you have. And a state of mind determines what you have at that point of time. So,
Exactly.
this is the way I look at it. Nina, what are your thoughts?
Well, absolutely. I think, as you said, being educated is vital in the sense educated about the other person and about the context, because how we deal with people makes such a difference. In public speaking, we have a very simple formula which says, understand your audience and speak according to the audience's level of comprehension. So you can have take a break, or you can say, let us have a structured leisure time activity when you're talking about exactly the same thing. So you're
Hmm.
tailoring it, you're putting in jargon, or you're leaving out jargon depending on whether you want to impress the audience or whether you want to really express something authentically. I think that's really important. Why are you doing this? And by constructive speaking, constructive communication, something in leadership, the team leader can very easily say, okay, we have a deadline, everyone get to it, you do this, you do this, you do that. That's one way of doing it. But another way of doing it is, all right, everybody, this is the that we have. What do you think about it? Who do you think, how do you think we should go about it? And who do you think can do X part of it, and who can do Y part of it? So when the team is involved, immediately that sense of ownership comes in, rather than a top-down order, an authoritarian order. When there is a democratic feel that, okay, I can contribute to this project by doing this, the onus comes back on me, because then I say, I have to do this. I said I would do this, and peer pressure. I said I would deliver this, and I will deliver this better than if just the boss told me do this, and I would probably just stop there. But that little bit extra, when the boss says, "Oh, that's the way you do it. That's a wonderful idea," appreciation, genuine appreciation, not insincere whitewashing compliments. That makes such a lot of difference. You agree with that?
I totally agree with you. In fact, I tell my clients, I said, look, remember the three A's. And what are
Tell
the
me.
three A's? Number one, acceptance. Accept the person as he or she is. And guys, what I'm talking about, it's not only about leaders, it's about every dimension of life. It's not only about workplace, right? Even in your relationships. Acceptance. Accept the person as they are. Number two, acknowledge them, that they are there. And number three, like Nina said, appreciate. And what I'll say, folks, just wear the shoes of the person whom you're telling, and your boss does not accept you, dismisses you. How would you feel? You do good, something good, bad, ugly, whatever it is, your boss does not acknowledge it. How would you feel? You've done something great and there's no appreciation. How would you feel? And if you have a right to feel bad, how do you expect your peers and your subordinates not to feel bad?
Exactly.
And Nina, while you were giving those two examples, right, where you tell, do, and the other is, let us do. What came to my mind reflexively is when you command, when you tell the person, when you give a dictate, it creates stress in the other person. And when stress is created, we are so hardwired, our brains are so hardwired that immediately our rational mind packs up and our emotional mind takes over.
Exactly.
Right. And the moment the emotional mind takes over, it only knows three things: fight, flight, or
Freeze.
freeze.
Absolutely. And what I have to say to that is, You have actually, when something like that happens, this is exactly what we're talking about. These are the things that contribute to what we call a toxic work environment.
Hmm.
And when something like this happens, you have a choice. Do you respond immediately? Do you react immediately? Or do you stay quiet, reflect what is happening, and then act upon it?
Hmm.
So, again, like your acknowledge, accept, acknowledge, and appreciate, learning to react, respond, and reflect makes a huge difference to what you are going to do. Because just this blind emotional reaction just ends up building up, the same toxic environment in reverse, where you're like, I hate my boss, he does this, she doesn't like what I'm doing, it's back to school. My teacher
Yeah.
doesn't give me good marks, that's why I failed. She hates me. So it does contribute to failure in the work environment also, if the boss is not genuinely empathetic or genuinely understanding of why you are doing something and why you have not delivered at that particular moment. So that's where your constructive communication comes back again.
No, you're right, absolutely right, Nina. And what I've experienced, the art of listening,
Exactly.
not to not to reply, but to understand.
Yes.
That is grossly missing.
Yes.
And well, today everyone says, okay, listen mindfully. Yes, mindful listening is very important, but there's more to it. Like I was reading somewhere, and I really resonated with that thing. You, when someone is speaking, you got to observe. First is observe. And when I say, now you could say that, okay, listening has to do with a sense of hearing. So where does observation come in? But the truth is, what the person is speaking, that's only 10, 20% or 15%. The body language, the
Yes.
emotions,
Yes.
right? The expressions. Unless you observe using all your senses, you cannot get the holistic knowledge or the holistic message which the
Yes.
person is trying to communicate. Num-
Absolutely.
Number two, feel.
Yes.
Because emotions play a very important role in communicating the message.
Right.
If you're agitated or peaceful or happy or sad, the message might be the same literally, but the tone would change everything, the
Ex-
communication part.
Exactly. Exactly.
Next, think, like Nina said, respond, think, reflect. And
It's
once you reflect, allowing your prefrontal cortex, that's the rational mind or the rational brain, or the decision making brain, to mull over the information which has come in, respond to it.
exactly.
So I've tried it. Believe me, I've tried it, and it works.
It absolutely works.
It
Ma-
works because you were saying something, Nina. Sorry, I just
Yeah, no problem. No, I was just thinking if I can put in a little story over here about, when I was facilitating corporate training. So this was in-house training. So this two gentlemen were traveling together. One is technically superior, and the other one is the subordinate. So superior asked his subordinate, "What do you do when you go home?" And he said, "I listen to my wife." And when he repeated this in class, everybody laughed. And I said, don't trivialize it. It is so important. She's been at home the whole day. She's had 101 irritations. Maybe the milk hasn't turned up. The tea, milk is curdled. She has to go get milk from somewhere. There are, 101 irritations, small things that happen in a daily basis. Now, the husband comes home and he listens to her patiently while he's having his tea. He doesn't offer any judgment. He doesn't tell her anything or what to do or whatever. And she doesn't want solutions. She just wants him to listen. I said, what a rock solid marriage that will be. Because they're forever listening. And would you believe it? The superior person was in this thing was saying in their bank, whenever an irate customer walks in, this is the person that they send to meet the customer, because he will sit with the customer, he will listen patiently, he will not offer any solutions until that irate customer has vented his spleen and
Mhm.
done everything. And after that, it's like a pressure cooker that's blown off the steam. He sits down, they both sit down, and irate customer walks out as a happy customer. His team loves him because every team member knows if they go to him with even their personal problems, he will listen. And that's what I think is the hallmark of a genuine leader rather than just a manager. Listening.
Yes, and while you were narrating the story, Nina, uh, now let me share a real life example. You see, I was doing a faculty development training program
Yeah.
in Srinagar. Now, this Srinagar is between Rishikesh and Badrinath. Okay,
Okay.
now, there were around 30, college professors and teachers in that group, and I made them do a mindful listening exercise. So, and I got to know it from the uh, FDC in charge. When she gave me a testimony, she said, after a week, 10 days, that professor, that teacher, came back to me and said, "Ma'am, can I have Mr. Gupta's email ID or phone number?" She said, "Why?" "I want to thank him."
Oh,
I said,
wow.
"Thank him for what?" He said, "What happened the other day? I went home after that thing, and I said, okay, you know, let me try it on my wife." And I listened to my wife. We have been married for 15 years, and I saw a surprised look on her face.
I know. Occupational hazard of being a spouse. Yes.
Okay, okay. And it was something different, and I really enjoyed her reaction. And she enjoyed my reaction, and within 3 4 days we discovered so much about each other which we had not discovered in 15 years.
Exactly.
and
Exactly.
and you see, and he says our marriage, our relationship has gone to the next level.
Exactly. Just exchanging small talk, opinions about movies and books. Nothing very earth shattering, but vital conversations that keep relationships going.
Hmm.
That's why even what they call cooler talk at the offices, when you're meeting, you're chit chatting, you're building up a picture about the other person, you're understanding the other people. You don't realize it consciously, but when you're talking, it's all going into your mind. And then when you're having and the best professionals are those who, even if they dislike each other intensely on a personal level, when you have a meeting and you have an issue, you do not consider the person, you consider what they have said.
That's true.
You say this proposal is good or bad based on rational things, not because, and very often I think turf wars in organizations or elsewhere are because people are so egoistically hanging on to their own proposal.
Right.
I brought this, and Mr. X is going to do that, and I know this is how he's going to object, and I all my guns ready. But you leave those guns outside the meeting room and you sit there and you listen to what the proposal is. How does it help that particular project, or how does it help your organization in the long run? Then you can make a fabulous decision together. That's professionalism. You know?
Right. And again, you see, if we just make an inventory of what creates confusion at workplace and at home, right, it won't be more than 5 6 points.
Yes.
Number one, we hardly discuss the problem, we land up discussing the person.
Yes.
So the entire attention shifts from the problem to the person,
Yes.
right? Number two, instead of bringing the future to the present and solving the problem, We straightway jump into the past, what has been happening.
Exactly.
Number three, people are hardly specific.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You see, they assume and they presume that you have understood. A number of times, I went there, I met so and that person was there. He said this. Come on, man, where did you go? Whom did you meet? Why don't you say I went to Bombay, met Rita or Geeta, then we went to lunch at Samovar. Then we
Exactly.
had lunch, that place is very good. Next time you go to Bombay, you should go there. Come on. You have given me nothing excepting that, this, there, he, she. You have communicated
Exactly.
nothing to me.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And the other thing which I found very useful is the I message. When someone says something and you feel offended, politely say, well, I felt bad and I expect this thing. That lays the agenda for the next time. Next, when I say next time, I mean the next moment itself.
Right. So, again, to give you a real life example, we have people who kind of say, who refer to their colleagues, lady colleagues,
Hmm.
as girls or, my girls and stuff like that. And I'm like, they're not your secretaries, they're not your daughters, they're professionally qualified women of,
Hmm.
high caliber. You refer to them by their names or you refer to them by their designations. Calling them girls is so demeaning. And I am offended by that, although you're not referring to me as your girl. I mean, like, you just wait and try calling me my girl, and you'll be going to be on a different level altogether of, you know, deconstructive conversations and
You know,
communications.
uh, yes, I've seen that a lot happening, and I don't know the reason, probably, why it happens, but yes, it's not the done thing. And it's
People need to
disrespectful if you
understand.
really ask me.
Yeah, people need to understand why are women offended when you just casually say "my girl" or "my dear" or whatever in a professional conversation.
It
If
has
you're
no
not
place.
related, it is intruding into your personal space,
Hmm.
you know. And I think that to some extent, politically correct speech, of course there are extremes, but I think people need to understand that you do refer to people by designations. You do refer to people in whichever way is appropriate for that context. As I tell my students, first time or anyone who's writing an email for the first time, talking to a client for the first time, meeting somebody professionally for the first time, always address them by their full title and name. And only after they say, call me Sandeep,
Right.
only after that will I call you Sandeep. Otherwise, everything else is Mr. Gupta, sir. And it goes on from there. And you have to learn these civilities, and an organization has to train you in those from the beginning. You know, in India, we're a little confused as usual because British style
Uh,
companies and American style, pure democracy, call everyone by their first names. So that's the way it goes. Yeah.
you see, and yes, and this is also a very important part of constructive communication. Now, let me give you the example of my son. My son used to work for Disney, right? Now, Disney had this culture of calling everyone by the first name, but his immediate boss was the old school guy,
Ah,
right? So whenever he had to speak to Anupam, his boss, he said, "Sir."
right.
And now Anupam was the senior VP, but he would address the managing director, Sanjay. He said, "Look, this is the way they like.
Right.
Why create a conflict? He wants to be called sir, I'll call him sir."
Absolutely.
So, for constructive communication, even making the choice, like Nina was mentioning, is very important.
Exactly.
And Nina, we usually do it for 30 minutes. Okay. So, what would uh, what would you like to suggest the viewers? How can they develop the attributes of constructive communication in them, or what should they be careful about, or on what things they should focus?
One is, first of all, improve your communication. Most people don't consciously build up their vocabulary. They don't build up this repertoire of the kind of polite terms you should use in a professional company, or in your emails and things like that. So pay conscious attention to what is required for all of these. When you're talking on a personal basis, always, as you mentioned so rightly, listening is very, very important. And when you're listening, make it a connection, so that the other person feels listened to, not just a cursory hearing kind of thing. So listening, very, very important. And most of all, I think, as you said, always, if you have a professional situation, address the problem, not the person. So that's where constructive communication really starts, and using vocabulary like inclusive vocabulary, and genuinely including people without these kind of demeaning terms, things like that. All of that makes a lot of difference. And I think when you build that up, that's when you build up a great vocabulary for yourself, a great connection with people. And genuine constructive communication seeks to build up both of you, not just showing off your vocabulary or any of those things. So I think that, I would say, is the most important thing, building up your connections.
Well, so well captured the entire thing, Nina.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Guys, you know, three prime energies, they are in us: the soul energy, the mind energy, and the physical energy. Okay. The soul energy is all about love, it's all about oneness, it's all about helping others, mutuality, inclusiveness. The physical energy is all about I, me, my, nothing more than that. And the mind energy in between them just keeps us oscillating between selfishness of the body and selflessness of the soul. And your reaction depends on at which station it is when that stimulus comes in. If it's towards the body, your action and reaction or your thought process would be all tilted towards selfishness. And if it is towards the soul, it will be tilted towards inclusiveness. Now, you can assess this thing only by and trying to understand yourself, being self aware, right? And believe me, being self aware is not difficult. All it requires is a resolve, a firm resolve, courage, patience, and perseverance.
Beautiful.
And if you start peeping in yourself regularly, and a simple thing, just start writing a journal every night. Put three things which made you happy. You learn from other people. Three things which offended you, and just think about it. You'll get to know your reactionary pattern, and then you can work on that.
Awesome.
So, this is from me. So, Nina, would you like to add something, or we should say goodbye?
Thank you. It's an absolute pleasure and privilege having this constructive conversation, which I think, I hope it resonates with the listeners, and I hope they get some tips from that. As I said, once again, pleasure and privilege talking to you. Thank you so much, Sandeep.
So, same here. Nina, speaking to you meant so much for me and brilliant. And I think our listeners, our audience would definitely be, benefited by your wisdom and by your experience. So thank you, Nina.
Thank you. Bye bye.